Hello everyone, welcome to Power Electronics. In this session, I will continue my discussion on controlled rectifiers. Particularly, I will be discussing single phase dual converter operation in this session. Right, let us start with the diagram here. If you can look carefully, you can see a single phase dual converter is nothing but two single phase full converters connected in anti-parallel direction. Now, as a single phase full converter is a two quadrant converter, a single phase dual converter will therefore be a four quadrant converter. Now, the left side of the load, the circuitry to the left side of the load is actually the first full converter. The circuitry to the right side of the load is the second full converter. Right. So, therefore, we say if two full converters are connected back to back in an anti-parallel connection, then the output voltages of both the converters as well as the output currents can be reversed. That means that I can have both positive as well as negative values of output load voltage and output load current, and hence you obtain the four quadrant operation, and the quadrant diagram is shown here. Right. So, now we state that the system or this particular circuit provides a four quadrant operation and is therefore called as a dual converter. Now, with the name dual comes from the fact that we have two full converters, and that is why the reason it is called as a dual converter. Dual converters are normally used in high power variable speed drives. That is the application. Now, coming to the operation, if alpha 1 and alpha 2 are the delay angles of converter 1 and converter 2 respectively, then the corresponding output voltage, average output voltage, be named as VDC1 and VDC2. We will come back to the equations a little later. The delay angles themselves are controlled such that one converter operates as a rectifier while the other converter operates as an inverter. But both converters produce the same average output voltage. It is a very important point. Right. Now, coming to the average output voltage of the first and second converter. Now, since we just stated, while one converter acts as a rectifier, another converts as an inverter, however, both of them produce the same exact values for average output voltages. So, therefore, if you look at the equations for the average output voltage of converter 1 as well as converter 2, it is going to be equal except for the firing angle values. So, for the converter 1, we have alpha 1 as the firing angle, and for the converter 2, alpha 2 is the firing angle. You cannot have the same firing angle which will disrupt operation. We will learn about the firing angles immediately just below. Right. So, since we just stated that one of the converters will act as a rectifier while the other acts as an inverter, we can write the equation 1 and 2 as VDC1 equals to minus VDC2. This is so because a rectifier converts AC to DC, an inverter converts DC to AC. Therefore, the output voltages should be equal and opposite. So, VDC1 is equal to minus VDC2. So, I will equate the RHS of equations 1 and 2 and substitute them into this equation. So, I will see 2Vm by pi gets cancelled. So, what remains is cos alpha 1 is equal to minus of cos alpha 2. Or in the other words, I will write cos alpha 2 equals to minus of cos alpha 1, whichever one again the same. Now, we from trigonometric equations obtain the fact that minus of cos theta is equal to cos of pi minus theta. So, therefore, minus of cos alpha 1 can be written as cos of pi minus alpha 1. Now, cancelling the cos terms on both sides, I finally get an equation that relates the triggering angles for the converter 1 and 2 as alpha 2 equals pi minus alpha 1. This is very important. That means that if the thyristors in first converter are triggered at alpha 1, then the same thyristors in the second converter are triggered at alpha 2, which is equal to pi minus alpha 1. So if I take this alpha 1 to the left hand side, I will notice alpha 1 plus alpha 2 is equals to pi. That means the thyristors T1 and T2 in the first converter and T1 dash and T2 dash in the second converter will operate at a phase difference of exactly 180 degree, that is 1 pi. Right. So that is what is the importance of this equation. Continuing, since the instantaneous output voltages of the two converters are out of phase, there will be an instantaneous voltage difference, and this will result in circulating current between the two converters. Now, the circulating current will not flow through the load and is normally limited by the circulating current reactors LR as shown in this diagram. Now for each one converter, I have LR by 2 connected just before the load so that the load does not experience the circulating current. This should be noted as the load current. Now if I assume that VO1 and VO2 are the instantaneous output voltages of converter 1 and 2 respectively, then the circulating current can be found by integrating the instantaneous voltage difference starting from omega t is equals to, in order to look at that, we'll have to go through the diagram in order to, this is actually where the circulating current starts, 2 pi minus alpha 1. Let me give a little introduction to this one a little later. Let me first come back and discuss the theoretical aspects. I'll go to the waveforms a little later. So, the circulating current is a continuous quantity and can be given in a mathematical term by integrating the instantaneous voltage difference starting from omega t equals to 2 pi minus alpha 1. Now, since the two output voltages during the interval omega t equals to pi plus alpha 1 to 2 pi minus alpha 1 will be equal. So, this is pi minus alpha. Let me come back here. This is pi plus alpha 1 and here this will be 2 pi minus alpha 1. So, between these durations, the output voltages will exactly be equal, and therefore, their contributions to the instantaneous circulating current will be 0. Now, why is it 0? Because the circulating current is obtained by integrating the instantaneous voltage across the load, and since this is the first converter output, this is the second converter output, and since I am to take a difference between pi plus alpha 1 and 2 pi minus alpha 1, the waveforms will be exactly equal. So, since I am trying to find the difference between these two terms, the output will be 0. This is the resultant output voltage across the load, which is given by V01 minus V02. Right. So, let me now come back and discuss the waveforms in a much detailed fashion. Right. So, during this particular waveform what you are looking at is exactly the same as that of the full converter that I had discussed in the previous session. So, for more information as to how a full converter output waveform is produced, I would definitely ask you to refer to the previous video. Right. Now, coming to the first converter, thyristors T1 and T2 will start conducting at alpha 1 and they will continue to conduct till pi plus alpha 1 because the load is highly inductive. Then the other set of thyristors T3 and T4, they will start conducting at pi plus alpha 1 and they will continue to conduct till 2 pi plus alpha 1. Now this 2 pi plus alpha 1 is denoted between 0 to alpha 1. This is only for simplicity. Now this is a very simple diagram which is directly taken from the full converter output waveform. Here we give an important notation to the output voltage waveform during a negative half cycle of the input supply. Now if you look at this, during the negative half cycle of the input supply, the output of converter 1 is exactly equal to but opposite to that of the input. Therefore, this particular half cycle, this is a portion of the half cycle what you are looking at, this is given as minus Vm sin omega t. What is the most important thing to note here is minus, because input is in the negative half cycle minus, But here in the output, it is actually reverse that of the input, and input is given by Vm sin omega t. Therefore, V01 during the negative off cycle between the durations pi plus alpha 1 to 2 pi will be given as minus Vm sin omega t. Now, here to make you understand a little clearly, we have shown what should have been the input waveform, and if the input waveform were to follow the discontinuous lines here, or the output waveform, then I would have called this discontinuous line waveform as the input voltage. This is Vm sin omega t. So, this is about the waveform for the first converter. Now, coming to the second converter, please note the second converter operates at a point, or the thyristors of the second converter are triggered at pi minus of alpha 1. So, that is why when I look at the waveform here, thyristors T1 and T2 conduct starting from pi minus alpha 1 till 2 pi minus alpha 1. This is where T1 and T2 will conduct. So, it should be noted the thyristors T1 and T2, and in the first converter and in the second converter, they should be phase apart by 180 degree. So, between phi minus alpha 1 to 2 pi minus alpha 1, thyristors T1 and T2 conduct, and from 2 pi minus alpha 1 to 3 pi minus alpha 1, the other thyristors T3 and T4 would conduct. Now, between 2 pi to 3 pi minus alpha 1 is given here, between 0 to pi minus alpha 1. Right. So, this is the output waveform of the second full converter. Okay. So, now as you can see, when one of the converter is operating as a rectifier, another one is acting as an inverter. So, because that is why you see at some portions the two waveforms are exactly opposite, and in some other portions they are exactly equal. Let us identify what are the portions of these two waveforms at which the waveforms are equal. That is, between alpha 1 till pi minus alpha 1 during the positive off cycle, the V01 and V02 are exactly equal. Very similarly, between pi plus alpha 1 till 2 pi minus alpha 1, the output voltage waveforms of the two converters are once again exactly equal. Now, to obtain the circulating current, you have to find out the instantaneous voltage difference between the V01 and V02. This will be the load voltage, right? So, that is what we have done here. So, what we have done is, we have taken V01 and we have subtracted V02 from V01. So, this is this minus of this, as simple as that, right? So, this is negative, minus of positive will be negative again. So, minus of plus is minus. That is what is the case here. Between alpha 1 to pi minus alpha 1, plus minus of plus 0. Then between pi minus alpha 1 to pi, plus minus of minus is again plus, therefore positive. So, this approximation can be used for the rest of the diagram also. Now, what is very important in this particular waveform is that though the circulating current waveform or the instantaneous voltage difference starts exactly at pi minus alpha 1 or 2 pi minus alpha 1, where it ends is clearly unknown, and it depends upon the inductive features of the load. And that is why we always state the initialization or the starting limit of the integration should be 2 pi minus alpha 1, but the higher limit is simply omega t. This cannot be found. So, that brings us lastly to the equation for the circulating current itself. So, all I have to do is to integrate this and divide the value of V divided with the inductive reactance, which will give me simply the circulating current. That is what is shown here. Right. So, the circulating current is given by 1 divided by, here it is in terms of 2 pi, but I have taken omega LR, inductive reactance, integration between the lower limit, as I said, the lower limit is what? 2 pi minus alpha 1, upper limit is omega t. So, that is why 2 pi minus alpha 1 till omega t. What we are integrating? We are integrating the instantaneous voltage difference, VR, with respect to what? Omega t. So, here omega represents the one full cycle here, and particularly LR is used in this equation because we are integrating voltage, but we are trying to find current. And since current and voltage are related by V and I, V is equals to I into R, this equation of I which is equal to V by R is completely acceptable. Right. So since we do not have a direct term for VR, what I will do, I will write VR is equals to V01 minus V02, which is instantaneous voltage of converter 1 and converter 2. Right. So what is V01? Let us go back to the equation, go back to the waveforms and find out what is the V01 waveform between 2 pi minus alpha 1 and omega t. So let me go back to the waveform. See, this is exactly where it starts. This is 2 pi minus alpha 1, and from this point till omega t, what is the V01? It is minus Vm sin omega t. So you go back and write minus Vm sin omega t d omega t. Minus of, this minus comes here. Now we have to integrate V02. Once again, find out what is V02 between 2 pi minus alpha 1 and omega t. Go back to the waveforms. Now this is V02 from 2 pi minus alpha 1 till omega t, the value of V02 is Vm sin omega t. So you come back and simply write Vm sin omega t with respect to d omega t. Right. So since this is minus Vm sin omega t, minus of once again Vm sin omega t, I'll take the minus side to the outside, and then it will be simply 2 times Vm sin omega t d omega t to be integrated. So I'll take the 2 also outside. So all I have left out now would be integration of the sin omega t d omega t with respect to the limits of the integration, so which is 2 pi minus alpha 1 till omega t. Now integration of sin is minus of cos, right, and the limits are applied as it is. So after substituting the limits, we will find that the circulating current of the single phase dual converter is given by 2 into Vm divided by omega Lr whole multiplied by cos omega t minus of cos alpha 1. This is the equation for circulating current. Very, very important one. Now, by looking at the equation for circulating current, let us state what are its dependencies. The circulating current depends on the delay angle, which is alpha 1, and becomes maximum when alpha 1 is equals to pi, provided omega t is equals to n pi, when n is equals to even values, that is 0, 4, 2. That is what we have written here. So the circulating current becomes maximum when alpha 1 equals to pi, at omega t is equals to n pi, and n is equals to 0, 2, 4, etc. Let us understand why. When alpha 1 is equals to pi, what is the value here? Minus 1. So minus of minus 1 would be plus 1, and cos of omega t is n pi, and n takes even value. So we know that cos of even pi is always 1. So it will be 1 plus 1, 2. That is the maximum. When it comes to the minimum value, the circulating current will become minimum when alpha 1 is equals to 0, provided omega t is equals to n pi. Now n takes odd values. So let us go back and substitute that. Cos of alpha 1 is 0, so cos 0 is plus 1. So this term is simply minus 1. Cos of omega t, now omega t is equals to n pi and n takes odd values. So cos of any odd pi is always minus 1. So this will be minus 2. Therefore, you will obtain a minimum value for IR. That is what we say. The circulating current depends on the delay angle and becomes maximum when alpha 1 is pi and omega t is n pi, where n takes only even values, and it also becomes minimum when the alpha 1 is 0, provided omega t is equals to n pi, but n takes only odd values. Now, if the peak load current is said to be or denoted by IP, one of the converters that control the power flow may carry a peak current of IP plus 4 times Vm divided by omega Lr. Now that is actually taken from the maximum value of IR. That's all. So when you substitute the values for alpha 1 and omega t approximately, you will find the maximum value of IR, and that IR term is simply added here. Right. The dual converters can be operated with or without a circulating current. It is completely dependent upon how you want to operate. In case of operation without circulating current, only one converter operates at a time and carries the load current, and the other converter is completely blocked by inhibited gate bus. In simple words, if you want to operate a dual converter without creating any circulating current, then you are only supposed to operate only one converter, and the other converter is made void of any gating pulses. That means it will never, none of the thyristors in this converter will turn on, and therefore the circulating current does not have a chance to originate. However, the operation with the circulating current has some advantages over the not having the circulating current. Let us state these first. The first advantage is the circulating current maintains continuous conduction on both converters over the whole control range, independent of the load. That is what you are looking at. You see, the circulating current maintains continuous conduction or both converters over the whole control range, independent of what is the load. So, for continuous load current operation, you should have circulating current flowing through the circuitry. Second advantage is, since one converter always operates as a rectifier and the other converter operates as an inverter, the power flow in either direction at any time is possible, which is a very big advantage in dual converters. And the last advantage is, since both converters are in continuous conduction, the time response for changing from one quadrant operation to another quadrant is much faster than what you would achieve with a full converter or a semi-converter. So, these three advantages makes a circulating current with the dual converter with circulating current have advantages over the dual converter without circulating current. Right. So, that is about the discussion on a single phase dual converter. Thank you.